Welcome, boys and girls, to another episode of Biology with Dr. Ronald Nathaniel. In this episode, we seek to understand the most fundamental question of them all, which is, what is life? As always, I am your friendly neighborhood zoologist, Dr. Ron. Let's get right into it. Wow. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? A reflection, doc. Duh. I know. But in all seriousness, what are you really looking at? Are you alive? Life is a concept that has intrigued scientists, philosophers, and curious minds for centuries. Before we get into defining what life is, let's first look at its etymology. The modern English word as we know it today has its origins from Middle English, spelled Lyf, Old English, spelled Lif, and even from German and Dutch. I can go on and on about this, but because this is biology with Dr. Ron and not language with Dr. Ron, I'm going to stop on the subject right here. If you ask someone what the meaning of life is, you're bound to get a myriad of responses. Simply put, it means to be alive. Cheeky, what does that mean? The state of an organism preceding their death. What does that mean? To not be dead. What does that mean? The cessation of life and all associated processes. I know it all sounds confusing and funny at the same time, but what do these terms actually all mean? The definition of life for a long time has been a challenge to both scientists and philosophers alike. There are several definitions we can look at, including philosophical ones that tackle matters like how to distinguish between living and non-living things. Then there are legal definitions of life which have been debated for years. These generally focus on decisions made to declare a human being dead or alive and the legal ramifications of these decisions. If you research hard enough, you'll find at least 120 definitions of life that have been put forth so far. The understanding and meaning of life varies philosophically, scientifically, and even personally. Since there is no consensus for the definition of life, most current definitions in biology are quite descriptive. For example, we look at life in biology as a complex phenomenon characterized by several key features. This is because life is a process and not a substance. Life can be defined as the condition that distinguishes animals and plants from inorganic matter, living things from non-living things. Life is a complex phenomenon that encompasses a wide range of living organisms, from microscopic bacteria to large multicellular beings like plants and animals. Life is considered a characteristic of something that preserves, furthers or reinforces its existence in its given environment. Now this brings us to the next question. What is a living thing? A living thing can be defined as a form of life that ranges from a single-celled creature to a multicellular organism. Examples range from bacterium to large animals and plants and everything in between. A simple definition can be put forth like this: a being that is made up of cells. In biology, cells are the most basic units of life. Cells are what keep things alive, so to speak. We will be studying this topic in detail in another video, but let me explain the principle of organization for you very quickly. This brings us to the most important topic of today's video: characteristics of life or living things. Levels of organization. Living things are organized in this way. Please note, I am not including organelles in this explanation, as we will be studying about that topic and about cells and the differences between animals and plant cells in a detailed video. Cells are individual units of life. For example, blood cells, fat cells, or nerve cells. A group of cells functioning together are called tissues, and the examples of tissues are muscle tissues, connective tissues, and nerve tissues. A group of tissues functioning together are called as organs. Examples of organs are lungs, heart, brain, and organs functioning together form organ systems. And the examples of organ systems are like the respiratory system, the digestive system, the nervous system. And organ systems functioning together make up an organism. And examples of organisms are you and me, human beings. or insects or cats or dogs, you get the idea. And organisms living together form populations or communities. Populations and communities in turn form ecosystems, and all the ecosystems of the world put together form the biosphere. The next characteristic of life is response to stimuli. Now you may ask me, what does stimuli mean? What is a stimulus? A stimulus can be defined as an object or an event or a factor capable of bringing about or inciting a physiological response. The word stimuli is derived from Latin, meaning to goad or to prick or to give incentive. In simple terms, there are two kinds of stimuli. The first one is external stimulus. It can be defined as anything that incites a change occurring from outside of the body. For example, have you ever noticed that certain things smell really nice while some things don't smell that nice? Or have you ever touched somebody in a warm embrace? Or if somebody hits you or punches you, you feel pain? What about vision? How about taste and sound? These are all examples of external stimulus. Phototrophism in plants and animals is another good example of external stimulus, because you see the plants and the insects moving towards a light source. And if you go down into the microscopic world, you can even see unicellular organisms moving away from external chemicals. These are all examples of external stimulus. The next type of stimulus is internal stimulus. This can be defined as a stimulus that takes place from within the body. For example, do you ever feel hungry or thirsty? Or if you get angry, do you feel your blood pressure rise? These are all good examples of internal stimulus. These can be defined as the complex reactions involving all the senses of multicellular organisms. The next characteristic of life is homeostasis. The word homeostasis uses combining forms of homeo and stasis derived from Neo-Latin and Greek, meaning similar or standing still or staying the same. It is the self-regulation of the internal environment to maintain a constant state. It is brought about by a natural resistance to change when the conditions are already optimal. Examples of homeostasis are sweating to reduce the outside temperature, or maintaining a steady internal temperature, or maintaining blood and glucose levels or blood and oxygen levels. The next characteristic of life is metabolism. Metabolism is derived from Greek metabole, meaning to change. It is the set of life-sustaining chemical reactions in organisms. It includes the building up of body tissue and energy stores called anabolism, and the breaking down of body tissues and energy stores to get more fuel for the body functions, which is called catabolism. The three main functions of metabolism are, firstly, the conversion of food to energy in order to run cellular processes. The second one is the conversion of food to building blocks for proteins, lipids, nucleic acids, and some carbohydrates. And thirdly, the elimination of metabolic wastes. While we are on the topic of metabolism, we must mention two types of organisms. The first one are the autotrophs. These are organisms that are able to produce their own food using sources like light, water, carbon dioxide, and chemicals. Good examples of autotrophs are algae and plants and certain bacteria. Heterotrophs, on the other hand, are organisms that eat other plants or animals for energy and nutrients. Good examples of heterotrophs are animals, fungi, some protozoa, and most bacteria. The next characteristic of life is growth. In simple terms, growth can be defined as an irreversible process of an organism in which it increases in both mass and size. It is the capability of an organism to maintain a higher rate of anabolism than catabolism. A growing organism increases in both size and structure. Good examples of growth include a tiny seed that is able to grow into a plant or a giant tree, or how a zygote is able to grow into a human being. The last characteristic of life in our list for today is reproduction. Reproduction is the ability of an organism to produce new individual organisms either asexually from a single parent or sexually from two parents. Reproduction is a fundamental feature of all known life. Each individual organism exists as a result of reproduction. It is the ability of an organism to pass down its traits onto its offspring. Now that we have spoken about all the characteristics of life, we must delve into this very gray area. We must talk about viruses. What are viruses? Viruses are microscopic organisms that are able to infect and kill their hosts. Now you may ask me, are viruses living or non-living things? Firstly, we must look at what they are made up of. Like we discussed before, every living thing is made up of cells because cells are the basic units of life. Viruses, on the other hand, are not made up of cells. They are made up of nucleic acids and proteins. Are viruses able to grow? No, they don't grow. Are they able to reproduce? Yes, only conditionally because they require a host in order to be able to reproduce. Do they maintain homeostasis? No, they do not maintain homeostasis. Do they exhibit metabolism? No, they rely on the host cell for metabolism. Do they respond to stimuli? In general terms, most of the observed viruses do not respond to stimuli. They, however, show certain reactions when changes to pH occur. So, applying all the above characteristics, can we really say that viruses are living or non-living? I'll let you think about that. In general, most scientists believe that viruses are non-living things. Now, what would you call them? Maybe, can we say they're the zombies of the biology world? That's it for today, boys and girls. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you all in the next one.